I chose a rather provocative title this morning. We are always being successful. And some of you might be saying, well, where the heck did he get that from? Guess what? It comes from none other than Ernest Holmes. In his book called A New Design for Living. It's probably one of the most favorite paragraphs that I've read of his. He says, one of the most difficult things for anyone to realize is that he is always a success. As contradictory as this may seem, it nevertheless is true. We are always being successful. We are always achieving the goal we have set up for ourselves in thought. Some people may win themselves terrific success at always being in business. Others may succeed in always experiencing ill health. Still others may succeed in being free. We always succeed. So our immediate problem is not one of success, but what kind of success are we having?
Wow.
Yeah. When I read that almost 10 years ago, I was like, where was this before? And just anecdotally, our good friend Joan Walgren, that we know from the Center for Spiritual Living in Cape Coral, had a friend. And one day she came to me and she was just kind of shaking her head, and I said, what's the matter? She goes, well, I have this friend, and she goes on a lot of trips, but she always says, oh, I'm going on a trip means I'm going to get a cold. And I said, oh, and what happens? She goes, oh, the day or two before, she always has a cold. She said, so this time I said, is that what you want? And the person stopped. I said, well, no. And she says, well, why do you keep asking for it? So, I imagine, well, I'll just ask it. So, what would you think the barriers to success are? Throw up. Thinking, okay. Well, what kind of thinking?
Negative thinking.
Okay, negative thinking. What else?
Doubt that you can be successful.
Okay, doubt. Belief, faith, fear. And I've heard of the fear of failure for a lot of years, and what I've come to believe that the reason many of us are not successful is not fear of failure. Maybe not even doubt, maybe not even thinking. It's actually fear of success. Because what does success mean? If you're making, let's say, $50,000 a year and you have an idea that successful would be $100,000 or $150,000 a year, what is that going to mean? It means you're going to have to change. So we're afraid of success because we're most likely afraid of change. And change can be a crazy thing. I will say that we're changing every day, every one of us, one way or another. I mean, so this is January. Last January, we weren't talking about wearing face masks and social distancing, were we? We changed. We're doing something different. We're doing it differently. We're doing life differently. We're adjusting, some better than others. We changed. I had a life-changing experience. It was June of 2019. I went in for a test at the hospital. It was an angiogram, and I expected that at worst, I'd be in overnight and be on my way home the next day. The next thing I knew, there was a guy in my face saying, on 3, cough. And I opened my eyes, and he said, oh, by the way, it's 3:15 in the morning, and you've had a double bypass surgery. 1, 2, cough. At that moment, I was a little out of it, but I had an idea that life had changed. The funny thing was, the next morning, I get a text from Reverend Teresa. She says, it was Saturday morning, she says, can you speak for me on Sunday? I'm in the hospital, I had a burst appendix. And I texted back, I said, well, I'm probably a couple of floors away from you because I had surgery. Life changed. My life changed. My idea of what my health was changed. My body, all those things changed. And there was really no choice. It was adjust or not. And not meant I wouldn't be here today. So, what is so scary about change? Why don't we like to change? We want different stuff maybe, we want to do things differently, but then we're like so comfortable in that place that we've been, so comfortable in that place that's just always just felt so good. Even though it might be a little painful from time to time, or maybe in some cases all the time, but we are comfortable with the pain we know versus a pain that maybe we might not know, or that might be a little different. And I think at every level of whatever looks like success, there's some discomfort. Some discomfort. There's not, I think there's something that all of us find that's, you know, gee, I'd like a little bit different here, this doesn't feel so good there, whatever it might be. And you know, we work toward that. So how do we get there? How do we get from this place of, you know, I don't want to change, I want to be successful. I don't want to change, I want to be successful. I mean, so we've got a little bit of, with psychologists, I think they would probably call this cognitive dissonance, where you want one thing, but you're not willing to do it. I think the core of it is really, you know, this is all Ernest Holmes. This is all Ernest Holmes. You know, it's not being thought police. It's not like trying to purge every negative thought out of your mind, because that just puts your concentration and your thought and your energy in the negative thoughts. Oh my God, that was negative. Oh my God, that was negative. Oh, I didn't say that right. Oh, I should say no. What we really, and if you really study Ernest Holmes and everyone that's following, you know, all the Wayne Dyers and all those other people that glommed onto his philosophy of change your thought, change your life. You know, I see that everywhere, and I said, you know, none of those people give Ernest credit. Kind of ticks me off. I mean, Louise Hay, her you know, landmark book, you know, it doesn't say anything about her being a science mind minister. Yeah, eyes popped wide open. Sure, she's a practitioner just like Randy and just like me and just like Ron here, and Tony ought to be. I mean, you've been doing the teaching long enough, you know, and whoever else. Yeah. But so the teaching is very powerful and is out there under a lot of different banners. But what does he say? He says things like have a mental equivalent. What is can you have a strong mental equivalent? I would like to live, my wife has had a mental equivalent of living in homes with ocean views as long as I can remember. And we're in our third place that has an ocean view. Okay? You know, and we moved into a building with a city view. And she said, you know, I like where we're living, but I want to have the ocean view on the other side of the building. Now, it took 2 years, but we're there. You know, the one I remember, I think I spent about 8 months with one realtor looking for just the right place that had the ocean view. But that's her strong mental equivalent, and nothing kind of gets in her way of that. What do you have your mental equivalent about? What is the thing that you see in your mind that life looks like when you have whatever it is you think you want to have? And we're all different. We all have different desires, different things that look comfortable, different things that look like happiness, different things that are pleasurable. We have to answer those questions. And then we have to focus our attention. You know, if you've read any of the books about the intention experiment, you know, intention is the next thing we need to put under that mental equivalent. So we have this idea of this is what it looks like. This is the picture that I have, that I can see every time I say I want to be successful. I'm going to put it under that label as successful. That's achieving your mental equivalent. Does it pop up? You know, it's like, you know, or do you have to like search for it? Now, what did that look like again? You know, it's like, well, maybe that's not it. Maybe that's not it. When you find what it is, I think you'll be drawn to it. I think it'll be the thing that you see all the time. The thing that when you get there, you'll see it and maintain it and perfect it and practice, become a practice in your life, a way of being. So we have this mental equivalent, then we have this idea of intention. My intention is to have and achieve that mental equivalent. And if you've been to meditation retreats, and actually I've been using an app. Of course, we have apps. We got apps for everything these days. It has meditations, all sorts of different things for sleep, for stress, for what you name it. Also, it has semi-guided, which means about every 8 to 10 minutes you hear a voice saying, "Where is your attention?" Or there's the guided, which has a voice about every 5 minutes that says, "Where is your attention?" And I will say that the question we need to ask ourselves as we're living from day to day is, where is your attention? Where is my attention? Is my attention on my mental equivalent and my intention, or is my attention wandering over here into worry, doubt, and fear? Is my attention wandering over there, wondering, what is he doing? What is she doing? Well, what do they know that I don't know? Nothing. They just may have a stronger attachment to their mental equivalent. So when you see somebody that says, oh, they have it all, what they have, I firmly believe they have, is a strong attachment to their mental equivalent of whatever that ideal life looks like for them. The home, the furniture, the car, the people, the love life, whatever it might be. And it's different for all of us. So that, so there's no judgment. It's like, if this was what you choose, that's what you choose, because that feels like it's going to be happy for you. It feels like it's going to bring the level of comfort that you would like to experience. But that question is, where is my attention? Am I paying attention to the thing I said I want? Now, some of us have, and I'll just talk about me. I have in the past had a mental equivalent that was way bigger than anything I'd come close to in the past. And early on, I realized that it was bigger than I could really see. I couldn't put a mental equivalent around it. So I had to kind of break it off and break it down into some smaller chunks. Think something that I could see, something that I could sort of get my arms around, as we like to say, and get to a place of saying, oh, okay, now I can feel this. Now I can get a sense of I can get there. And as I got closer, then I was able to say, oh, I'm getting close to that, so that means I could probably go a little bit farther. If any of you have ever done anything like run, I was a runner for a while, and I got to where I was running 3 miles comfortably, and I would start to say, well, can I run 3.5? Could I run 4 miles? How far could I actually go and still, feel comfortable with it and do it? I just pushed that. So it's really kind of the same thing. Where do we want to get to? Where do we want to get to? And can we see it? Do we need to see it in pieces, or can we see it all at once? It really depends on where you are now with moving toward whatever that mental equivalent might be. So you can still have the great big mental equivalent. I'm not saying to give that up. What I'm saying is, what are the steps from getting there? There's a tape I had from Norman Vincent Peale a number of years ago, and mine been Robert Schuller, one of those guys. And it was called From Peak, P-E-A-K, to Peak, P-E-E-K. And the point of it was, you see the first peak, and as you get toward the top of it, you get a peak of the next peak. And that's how you build your dream. You build from peak to peak to peak to peak. And I probably listened to that tape, probably first heard it about 30 years ago, and I can't tell you how many times I listened to it. It was in the car. You know, it was in the days I was driving 35,000 miles a year in Los Angeles, so I had a lot of tape time. A lot of tape time. And it stuck with me. It's like, oh, okay, just take it a piece at a time. If you've ever met with a fundraiser, and you know, for a fund development campaign, and they talk about, well, let's raise, you know, we're going to raise $10 million. Well, how can we do it? And they'll build, they draw invariably a pyramid. Some of you are shaking your head, you've seen this. And the top of the pyramid is $10 million. Well, we could get one gift of $10 million. Or we can get 10 gifts of $1 million. Or we get 20 gifts of $500,000. And they just keep breaking it down to where, you know, it could be 10 million gifts of $1. Well, so each step is achievable, and you could see that anybody that contributes at any level is contributing to that ultimate $10 million goal, and that's where our mental equivalent. So we, you know, let's just use that $10 million. If our mental equivalent is $10 million, how do we break that down in terms of what we do, how we do it, when we do it, who we do it with, whom we do it with? All right, you grammarians out there. So we move through a process, and then we're always backed up by this. And I love the reading Randy and the prayer that you did and the songs, all telling us to have that trust that we're always okay. You know, sitting in Reverend Lane's office, there's plenty of stuff that reminds me you're always okay. So we have our mental equivalent. We're stretching who we are today into something new. We're seeking to be changed. And at the same time, we're always okay. Spirit has got our back. Spirit is underpinning us. We're always taken care of. Wherever we are okay. Because Spirit is a loving spirit. The thing that I learned most, you know, some people say, well, you know, it's love or law. No, it's love and law. You know, the law, and some people, you know, sort of bristle over the idea of the law. The law, to me, proves God's love. Because the law doesn't change. It's there today, the same as it will be tomorrow, the same as it was yesterday, and the same for me as it is for you. It's there. It's creative. It's supportive. It's loving. It's fulfilling. It tells us all that we were created perfect, and underneath all whatever crud we've put on top of it, we're still perfect. And in that perfection, we have the ability to achieve what we choose. Someone the other day wrote a prayer request that I got, and I think there were like 4 items. And she, at the end, she said, "I'm sorry to have so many things in one request." And I thought, well, why do we apologize for making a prayer request? You know, that there's too many things, or somebody in a class I was teaching, I asked anybody had prayer requests, and somebody was talking about something. I said, well, you asked for prayer about it. She said, no, I didn't think it was important enough, or the kind of thing I could ask for prayer for. In my mind, there's virtually nothing that doesn't qualify as possible prayer requests. About the only thing we won't pray for is if Randy said, you know, I want so-and-so to fall in love with me. We won't do that because we don't know what so-and-so believes in. You know, we won't pray that somebody else does something that we have no idea about, but we might pray that you have success with whatever it is you are seeking to do with that person, or that has to do with that person being involved. That there's a whole different aspect to that. So, if you're feeling uncomfortable about something, ask for prayer. That's what you know. But we ministers are practitioners first. And Michael Beck would drill that into every week. He did not so much into the practitioner students, but he would say ministers are practitioners first. Always practitioners, because we're there to pray. We're there to hold the presence of Spirit here and now all the time. That's the calling that we've answered when we did this, when we've gone through practitioner training. It's not, I always say year one is brain surgery without the anesthetic, and year two you get to put it all back together again. Because we tear it, it's torn apart in the classes to find out what we really believe, what we really think, what we're really about, so that we know when we move forward what work we have to do. When I used to sit in the prayer ministry at Agape for 2 and 3 hours and sometimes 4 hours, as part of the service that we did there, if I was working on something, I would tell you that 8 out of 10 prayer requests would come in on what I was working on. And I think, well, how do they know that I'm working on that this week? Sometimes it might just have been something I was getting clarity on, but I got a chance to pray about it 6 or 8 or 10 times in an afternoon. It was pretty awesome. So somebody is always working on what you're working on, or has worked on it, or might need to do just a little. We can always do a little bit more work. So formula for moving forward to being that success that Ernest here is talking about, mental equivalent. He would say commitment, and I would say intention, the same thing. Keeping your attention on your intention, and prayer. And as you do those things, you won't have to worry about whether you're having negative thoughts. You won't have to worry about whether you've phrased something correctly or not. Because you're moving in the direction of, you've placed that thing so prominently in your beingness that you will hold it there all the time. And that's really what it's about. So we want to move out of this sort of thought police kind of thing that sometimes we get into in science of mind. I've been there myself, so I'm not talking out of school here. And be in this place of really holding that picture of what it is we want, that mental equivalent. Because as we do that, it will accommodate the change that we will need to do to get there. Because we will grow with it. We will grow as we see it, as we get more and more excited about it. One of the first times I knew Fawny wanted to sing, we were at a singing workshop, as I recall. And she said she wanted to do exactly what she's doing now. And every time I saw her after that, I could see she was working toward that. That's what she wanted to do, her mental equivalent. I'm not sure it's exactly what show up exactly with the way you thought it would, but she's growing with it. She grows with it. I've had the pleasure of doing a couple of Christmas parties at a country club. I play bass, and we had a lot of fun. But what is it you hold that you want to get to? And it might not really, it doesn't have to be big. There's no big or small in God, but it just might be some kind of change that takes us out of whatever today's comfort zone looks like. Some people say, oh, I have everything I need. Okay, great. Maybe you just want to maintain the mental equivalent you've achieved. That's okay too. It doesn't always have to be bigger, better, faster, stronger. It could just be maintaining what you have in a way that's filled with my 2 favorite words, grace and ease. So, get your mental equivalent, commit yourself to it. Place your attention there, place your intention there, and pray about it. Pray about it on your own, pray about it with somebody else, pray about it. Write prayers, whatever you want to do. But move in the direction of it. Move in that direction. So let's just maybe take a moment here and just turn within and turn to that space of spirit that is within, that still small voice that is always speaking to us. And open that inner ear, that inner hearing that we have to hear that voice, knowing that it is there all the time in the perfection and wholeness that it is. And in the wholeness and perfection that we have been created in, I know that each one of us has been created in that image and likeness and out of spirit itself, and so that we embody that infinite perfection, that infinite wholeness, that infinite grace and beauty and ease that is spirit all the time. And as we surrender into that knowing, as we surrender into that absolute knowing that we are of spirit, all things are possible. And it's in this all things possible space of being that I give great celebration and great rejoice this morning, knowing it's the truth for each one of us gathered here and anyone who may be watching and hearing this at some other place and time. So I name this good and very good. I am grateful to know this truth and to speak this truth for each and every one and myself. And I release it into the law where I know it cannot return to me unfulfilled, but only fulfilled thereof. And together we can declare this to be so by saying,
So it is.